If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
And good morning, friends. Let's jump over to our edit and see what we've got going today. It is 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is, of course, the Animation Truman Show, which means the grueling, at times, unglamorous labor of creating an animated cartoon all by yourself. It's really pretty fun. Okay, so by the way, today I decided I am going to play in the background music that is this fairly lengthy playlist, and all this music is just background music, or score I should say, from movies. So it's all music I've written. So anyway, here it goes. Boop. So if the music's too loud, let me know. I'm assuming it's probably okay. Kind of the idea is for it to be in the background, providing a peaceful backdrop to our hard work today. Okay, so yes, well, I did a live stream going over the score for webisode 7 2 nights ago, I think it was. I don't think I was on yesterday. If I was, then I'm having a, it's all a blur. So this is where we're at. It appears to me that Salt and Light, the double-length pilot, has really 2 episodes to go. I don't know what the break point's going to be, but probably here. I mean, frankly, that's probably it. Let me just go ahead and push this downstream a little bit. Okay, so what does that give us? That gives us a webisode that's going to be, wow, 5:45 of actual content, and then this one's going to be longer. 8:20, well, no, about 8 minutes, just under 8 minutes. So, yes, it's true that theoretically this could be broken into 3, but my inclination at the moment is to go ahead and drive through and do 2 longer ones. That's what I'm thinking. It's not a firm decision, but once I get these 2 webisodes done, then I can. Well, frankly, I'm going to be pulling them back down off YouTube is what I expect, because I'm going to be compiling the webisodes into an actual 48-minute show, or 2 24-minute shows, to pass on to my distributor, who's been waiting very patiently, really, for about, gosh, a year and a half since we first talked about this. So what do we have here on the show? Well, okay, so we've got these shots of the crowd, so that's kind of interesting. Let's roll back here a little bit. Let's roll back here. So here's the stock image of the crowd, and there's several shots that use it. 583, 589, 596. So we're just thinking out loud here. $647. I need to look at what happens here. So they realize that Tianara's not around. Golek is pleased because it's been blamed on Asher. And to be fair, it's not that Asher had anything to do with Tianara running away, but it is true that the letter Golek found was written by Asher. So in a sense, he's correct. But he's blaming whatever's in that letter is enough to make Golek conclude that it's somehow linked to the disappearance of Tianara. Which makes sense, because presumably this letter says something about the Asher's disapproval of the wedding, right? So Vespigi, always one to be jacked around by Golek, concludes that Bezier should lose his head for this. So it's quite a jump or rush to judgment, and so Melchizedek has realized that, oh my gosh, I need to warn Asher. So here he's okay. So this is the word kidnapped. So what is this shot of the crowd is the question. What's going on? So I need to look at I definitely need to pull up the script, see what's going on here. So again, friends, this is the Animation Truman Show, which means there is no, it's not curated content. So every once in a while, you got to sort of wait for me to get my bearings and figure out, just like you do in your job, you know, figure out what's the next thing you need to do, and sometimes puzzle a bit over how you're going to do it. So on my other screen, I've got this. So this is the screenplay for the entire 48-minute double-length pilot. That's what we are looking at on the other screen. And so we're scrolling ahead to the end of what the last webisode ended on. So Golik says, "Behold the bringer of the rain, your prince." That was the last thing we really saw in this episode, is Vespar responding to that. He's like, "Who, me?" kind of thing. So he says, "Your prince," and then Vespar's like, "Hmm?" And that's the end of the webisode. So that leaves us here. Okay, so the script says, yeah, what we should do, let's make no bones about it. Well, the first thing I should do for the purposes of this webisode is take these two shots, and this is what the next episode should start on, no doubt about it, is once again, it'll be Golik saying, "Behold the bringer of the rains, your prince." Okay, so that's where we begin this webisode. So we'll have a little repeat there. And this could, and frankly should probably, actually be part of the, and again, I'm just thinking out loud here, folks, so I'm coming up with this stuff as I go. That's why I seem to have the right idea, and then I sort of change my mind. So what really probably should happen is these two shots should be part of the recap of the previous episode. So when the voice says, "Previously on Salt and Light," that thing, that little sequence should probably end with, "Behold the bringer of the rain, your prince." And then we can dive into this episode. So that makes sense. So I'm going to leave these two separate because I'm thinking they're going to really belong in the recap. So that we're not, that gives me less, I don't want to have content that's baked into the webisodes that I'm then having to do a bunch of cutting out when they're all glued together into a single long episode. So what happens? Well, actually what it says in the script is that the crowd roars its approval. So I'm going to say probably, let's look at what we have here. Okay, so this is when the rain is starting to peter out. So I think there is a shot. Let me look back here. There's a really wide shot. Right here we go. Yes, actually, let's do it this way. Let's grab this shot. So he says, "Behold your prince." And then I think I'm going to go ahead and repeat this shot. And what I want to do is modify this so that the people in the foreground are raising their fists in the air and or clapping and that sort of thing. So now what I need to do is that'll work. That'll get us going on the next webisode. So, by the way, is anybody out there on the chat today? One of these days I'm going to try, I'm probably going to try live streaming actually through Discord while I'm live streaming on YouTube. I don't know if you can do both at the same time. I think you can, in which case we could actually have audio chat going on, but that's an issue for another day. Today, the order of the day is to actually just get some work done. So I am going to open up Tahoma. Let's jump over to here. And by the way, you guys, you can see I seriously considered wearing my baseball cap because I've got the complete Elvis hair going on thing. Because for no real reason that I can cite, I decided not to cut my hair for quite a while. It's been like in a complete buzz cut for years. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it grow. Just gonna let it grow. See what happens. And so now I've got this Elvis thing going on because it all just comes back quite nicely, actually, sort of to my surprise. But anyway, okay. So is everybody okay with the music in the background? Is the volume okay? And blah blah blah. So what we want to do is open up Tahoma and see about this shot here. Is this a Tahoma shot? So this would be shot number 594. Let's see. I would bet you any amount of money this is a Tahoma shot. So let's go File, Load Scene. And the reason I think it's a Tahoma shot is because of the way Golik's hands rise up in the air. That looks like the plastic tool to me. Yep, there we go. So this is the shot. And okay, so this is a fairly complicated layout here. So I would say, what is the foreground with the people? Does that include? I wonder why this is a sub scene. Maybe the rain is baked into it. Oh no, actually, wow, okay. So this is actually a collection of levels. I did not realize that. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, so the rain, oh yeah, the rain's over here. And so Golik, we can allow his hands to rise up in the air. That's okay. But the question is, where is the crowd? Well, they'd be in the foreground, so this is probably the crowd. Okay. Wow. Okay, that's what I did. So apparently I drew this really high-res drawing. And then this keyframe is me scaling up the crowd so that they provide a nice silhouette there in the foreground. So if we look at the actual art, this is really the zone. Actually, it's almost like this rectangle pretty much shows you where they're baked in. Let me look at that again. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Okay, so what we want to do is we actually want to add some animation onto that. Now, this does look like a smart raster level, and indeed it is. Okay. I'm just turning down the alpha so I don't change the color and then accidentally change it back to a different color than what it was before. So, what do we do? Well, we have a couple options. The easiest would be, let's say, tween, arms in the air, and then alternative pose, and then these will probably repeat. Okay. And if you're wondering, well, what did you just say? I'll show you. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the V key, which is the okay, why will it not let me use? Oh, this is a vector level. Well, that's fine. That's fine. We'll use the brush. No problem. I didn't realize it was a vector level. I thought it was a smart raster level. Okay, so here's what we want to do. We're just going to really kind of eyeball this. Step one, and let's just do it one character at a time. Okay, so there's his arm. And we can just draw shapes because it is a vector level. And probably if we go ahead and allow ourselves one onion skin. We can kind of see what we're doing. Okay, so that takes care of character number 1. Presumably what's going to happen is, oops, it's going to be bump, 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 bump. I'm sorry, bump, 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 bump. That's what we're trying to achieve here. Okay, makes sense? So now I'm going to keep going on this path. I don't know that I need to do this with very many of the people either. I probably only need to do it with a couple, and that will sell the concept, actually. Okay, so again, well here, did I get that right? Okay, so then here I'm going to go ahead and leave the skins on so that I can just make a slight modification here. I don't want them to move their hands a ton. We just want to get the feeling of it, you know. So here, let's just do it again. We'll fill that in. And then this person will be a clap. This is going to be a clap. So I'm going to just do this as shapes. So forearms, like that. We just have to give the impression, you know. We just have to make it feel right. So then this is going to be pretty much, let's just kind of put the hands together right here. So nobody's making a comment. I assume the music is not too intrusive. It's not too loud or anything in the background. Okay, so now this is important. This shot needs to be immediately saved under a different name. Over on the show, we are on, let's see, this was, of course, 594, and we're going to wind up replacing this. Okay, so this is going to be helpful, by the way, because we've got these. We're going to have these shots where we could be coming back to this shot of the, you know, the people in the crowd, which I don't think is like the greatest drawing. At some point, I'm probably going to replace this drawing behind the characters that move, and just re-render all the shots that use it. Just so you know, I'm not really happy with that drawing. I don't know. Well, I was going to say I don't know what I was thinking that day, but I do. I was actually using the My Paint oil paintbrush, and I was doing the painting in Tahoma, which means there was no layers or anything. It was just a flat painting, and kind of probably destined to suck to some degree. So anyway, point being that we could use this crowd shot in other places as well. This is a really nice shot, you know, with the top lighting and all the rest. So excuse me, I'm growling in your ears. So what do we want to do? We've got this shot is 595. Okay, well, coincidentally, let me see here. This is 601. I think I'm just going to call this 494 or 594B. I'm just going to make it an alternate version of 494. So let's do that. So let's do other options, save scene as, and this will be 594-B. That way I'm not going to accidentally step on the shot number of some other shot like 599 or something, you know, thinking I have a number that'll slip in there between the other numbers and turn out that there's a shot already that exists with that number. When in doubt, just call it B. Okay, so now that I've saved it as 594B, I'm also going to save all. And then once I save all, so why did I save all? Well, when I saved all, it's saving the levels as well. It's saving the individual art that's saved to the hard drive. That's why the save takes a long time. But I need to do that because this image sequence, or this, oh gosh, I forget what the file format is for vector levels. But anyway, we're going from this one shot to adding these ones. So this level definitely needs to be saved. Okay, and I can see something I need to fix immediately, which is this right here. Basically the thickness of this person's arm kind of changed. And that looks a little silly, so let's beef that guy up a little bit. Whoops. Beef that guy up a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so we did save all. Now what we can do is, this is supposed to be the roar of the crowd, so we'll let Golik's hands go up in the air just like he did in the other shot. And for this one, well, okay, so behold the bringer of the reins. What we need to do is have him say your prince here. Excuse me. So again, let's look at which column is his mouth. Oh, that's the stage. Oh, okay. Is it here? Boom. Boom. Right there. Yep, okay, that's the mouth. So he needs to say your that's interesting. Let me play this. By the way, I didn't mean to turn that off. Okay, so this is way too long for this shot. Control X to your prince right there. This needs to be probably, well, 2 is slightly open. 3, okay, so we need another drawing here, actually. Let's go here, and we'll make a duplicate, and I can probably wing it on this one. So I'm gonna hit the V key and just make a very big open mouth. Obviously this is super tiny on the screen, so we sort of have a little bit of latitude. All right. Not bad, but and now I'm going to hit it with the brush, actually soften the edge a little bit. We need to pull out that edge a little bit more, and we'll just kind of let things soften up a bit. Okay, come on, zoom out there. Okay, so he says your prince, and then basically for this shot we really do not need the bending of his body. So let's just look at what we have here. He goes up, your prince. You know, I guess it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. His talking stops, so I guess it's all just as well. Let's save all, so that I'm hitting save all so that it saves the mouth shapes. Okay, so when he says your prince, that's the crowd roars. The crowd gets excited, right? So let's get that in there. K key. So he says your prince. Your prince. I don't like the pause there. That is too freaking long. So I'm going to say take from here to here and hit Control X. And then we need to obviously stretch that back down. Let's get the timing on the mouth right. Your prince. Now, and now he holds it too long, so probably, gosh, let's take out 2 frames and see how that feels. Your prince. Okay, that feels about right. Okay, good. So now we can stretch this down to here. Save our work. And now we need to get the crowd in there. So after he says the word Prince, obviously that would be when the crowd would react. So he says Prince, and I would say when he's sort of halfway through finishing the sentence, let's go ahead and we'll add in shot number 2, and then this needs to be shot number 3. Probably 2 frames apiece, I would guess. I'm kind of definitely guessing. Okay, we'll delete those out of there. So let's just see how that feels. Yeah, that works. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go like this. Control C, and we're just going to repeat that. There's a way to be able to drag and have a sequence repeat, and I don't remember what it is. Maybe it's like you select it. No, that doesn't do it. I can never remember what the trick is to make it so that a sequence. So anyway, I usually just cut and paste. Why kill yourself, right? Okay, so there's that. And now let's see what we have. So he says, "And behold, the bringer of the rain, your prince." Yay, yay, yay. Okay, let me see here. Okay, I want to change this now that I see it, actually. I want to make this, I want to make it, the arm go up and down. So let me see here. So the up position should actually be out. Yep, so there's the up position. So yeah, let's do it this way. I'll just hit the eraser and erase that. I mean, technically, if I want to make it clean, I probably should just delete those lines, but I don't think it matters much. So okay, so let's see if that feels better. Okay, other than, I mean, how critical do you want to be? I mean, you could stagger this, right? So everything's not synchronized. And one way to do that, actually, now that I think about it, we could, well, no, you'd have to separate the characters onto different levels. I think I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so now what we need to do is render this to 594B so we can replace it in the timeline of the show. And this is JPEG. That's kind of a holdover from another time. I think that let's just switch this to ping. Okay, boom. So we'll render that, and then we can smack it into the show, and then this really is going to be a nice shot to get us going on webisode 8, because, you know, it's just kind of epic. The whole episode will start out with Golik invoking sort of the roar of the crowd kind of thing. That'll be kind of cool. So let's go here. And then once we get this done, I think it's going to be pretty much a matter of going through the show and just finding shots that are deficient and start fixing things up again. Okay, so this was 594B, so we need to import that. Scene number 594B. Sounds like some sort of marching man music. I don't remember when I wrote that. That is from... Yeah, that's from Clerical Errors. If you want to see the movie the music that's playing right now is from the movie Clerical Errors, which you can see if you want to watch it on the Encourage TV YouTube channel. 594-B. There it is. And there's our sequence. So it's a 60 frame sequence that's actually playing at 8 frames per second. And now we need to scooch on up to here. And there it is. So 594B. I'm going to smack it in right there and then drag it down here and kind of see where that leaves us. So he's going to say, right. So in the previous webisode, here, this is kind of an interesting editorial note, probably. In the previous webisode, he says, "Behold the bringer of the rain, your prince." And then we see Vespar, because he signals Vespar to come on over, come on out in front of the crowd and sort of make an appearance, right? So the shot of Vespar is not here. In this webisode, the preview will end with him saying, at least this is what I'm thinking right now. It'll end with him saying, "Behold the bringer of the rain," and then it'll cut to this, and he'll say, "Your prince," from this angle. Okay, I like it, but I want to change a couple things. First of all, let's get rid of the resample, and then let's kick this one up to 12 frames a second, actually. So 1.5 speed. I think this shot will play better if it's quicker. "Your prince." Yes, that's perfect. That's great. That'll work. Okay, so let's, and then we don't want it to be too long, so let's get right in and get out. Boom. I say we end it there. "Your prince." The crowd roars, and the crowd goes wild, right? Okay. All right, so now, according to the script, Golik signals the prince. Okay, so we already covered that. Vespar awkwardly approaches. Vespigi beams with pride, and Carliana says how handsome he looks. Okay, so according to the timeline, these are a little out of order. Okay, yeah, and frankly, it says in the script that Vespar approaches awkwardly. I wouldn't call that awkward, but that's okay. That's not that important. So we'll just change that to say Vespar approaches, because I do try to keep the script updated. So let's just look at this. Golik's hands are up, and then they're straight out. And on this shot, they're up again. So I do want this shot in between. So I wonder about this shot. It's supposed to say Vespar beams with pride. I like that. That's a tight edit, because he moves and then we go ahead and cut away. I like that. It's one thing I've been thinking about, is I want to make the editing on the show a little bit tighter than it's been. When I turn it into a full-length episode, I'm definitely going to be trimming it down. I expect probably 10-15%. The only problem with that is it's going to make, in some places it'll make it tricky to fit the score in, because I'll be having to cut the music and re-edit it a little bit, but goes with the territory, friends. Goes with the territory. So let's look here what we have. So we've got the shot we just did. That looks good. That looks good. I think we should have the dramatic push in here, by the way. In fact, you know what? Let's just you know, let's reuse this concept, because it's an effective one, and why not? Okay, so we're going to really start out with the camera sort of moving, right? Just, that's too much. That was too fast. But the idea is to just kind of have that motion in there. So looks good. And now it's kind of slowing down a bit. There, again, I would say that one's just a skosh too fast. Why is it? Okay, it looks to me like, based on the what I see here, the camera move is actually baked into this shot, so I can't really take that out. Okay, so now let's jump back to here and see what we've got to work with. For now, I think what I'll do is put the preview on full screen, so I don't have to keep switching screens and do as I usually do, which is forget to switch back. Then I get everybody poking me in the chat. So it says, according to this, we got 2 concurrent viewers, but nobody's really chatting today. So, identify yourself. Identify yourself. Okay, so let's go to the preview. And again, I'm managing 3 screens here because I'm looking at what we're gonna, you know, what's in the script, what's on the timeline, and what software we need to use to do whatever shot needs to be done at the moment. So this feels pretty good. I like that. Cuts away. He steps up. Okay, I see an error, so let's just fix the error right now. This is shot 601, and as you can see, there's actually a an X in the background image, which is kind of stupid, admittedly, but that's because this background image was actually taken as a screenshot from Tahoma. Now, I happen to know that I painted a fix on that shot, gosh, yesterday or the day before. So my suspicion is for 601, if I load up shot 601, sorry about that, guys. I'm going to load up shot 601, and I will bet you here in Tahoma that if I just re-render it, that's going to be solved. So let's do that right now. 601.tnc. Boom, baby. Yep, there's the shot, and I will bet you, yep, the X is no longer there, so all I have to do is just re-render. And then that'll be fixed. Okay, so the reason I mentioned that I'm bouncing between screens is because now I can't be sure what to do next unless I look at the script and make sure that what's going on in the edit is sort of matching what's supposed to be going on in the show. Okay, so I'm jumping back to the timeline, which again should be boop, full screen edit or preview, so I don't have to keep switching screens. So now this shot is fixed, and what happens is I'm rearranging a couple lines in the script that are actually out of order at this point. And now OpenOffice decided to kind of freeze up on me. Okay, Vespar approaches. Golik raises his hands once again to signal the people to quiet down. So that's what we see in this shot, actually. Okay, and by the way, we need the rain in here, don't we? So stop everything. Let's fix that. Okay, so this shot, by the way, just out of curiosity, oh, that must have been there for a color key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my browser, and I believe that in the drawings folder, we should have a TLV level called rain or rainfall. So let's look under R, because I specifically saved it as a, there it is. So boop, we'll just, okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. I guess we need to right mouse click and load it. Okay, cool. So now, I'm going to have to, Mr. Dyslexia here, I'm going to have to double check, but it seems to me that the rain is falling in the wrong direction. So I'll have to check that. Okay, so let's get those out of there. And yeah, so let's look at these other shots and see which direction the rain's falling. And by the way, are we missing the rain here as well? We might be. I don't think we are, but let's double check. Nope, we've got the rain. So the rain's kind of coming from right to left. Let's just double check that though. Whenever we get a close-up of Golik, yes, it's coming from right to left. When we see the crowd, the camera's effectively turned around, and so it's going left to right. Okay, so it should be right to left, and I'm saying that so that my ears hear me say it, because, again, Mr. Dyslexia gets a little confused about left and right sometimes. And so right to left is what I said. Here, by the way, we need to put the rain in that shot as well, don't we? Let me see. We do. and this shot. That's the one we're working on right now. So this should be right to left. So we'll go back to Tahoma. And is it right to left? It is. So that means we can just render and we're good to go. Okay. So K key. For whatever reason, I'm hitting the K key, and I guess it's the L key. Sorry. All right. So Control Shift R. So now that just baked the rain into that shot. So now the shot of Vespigi, we've got something here we need to be careful about. Okay. This is in fact the earlier shot of Vespigi and Carliana run in reverse. Okay? Nothing wrong with doing that. If you can get away with it and save a little work, that's not a crime. However, it does bear asking the question of whether we should be seeing the rain here. Technically, we really should. Now that could be problematic. We run the shot in reverse. You know, the rain will be going up, or at least probably. Now, and truthfully, it probably won't, because I think whenever there's a given rain, like a raindrop on the screen, it's actually just a line. It's just a streak, and it's only on the screen for one frame. So let's just go ahead and keep moving forward here. So this would be 595. Let's take a look. I'm pretty sure that's also a Tahoma. We're kind of in a cluster of Tahoma shots right now. We do want to save all. Good. Okay, and so let's just do the same thing we did a moment ago. Let's go to the browser. Let's go to rainfall.tlv. And by the way, there's another one right here called rain.tlv. They're basically just duplicates of the same thing. Because I had saved the rain out as a standalone level, months earlier or something, and forgotten that I had done it. So that's the story behind that. Okay, so this, by re-rendering this now, this is actually going to fix both of the shots that involve Vespigi and Carliana. So we'll just re-render that, and we're good to go. So the stream says we have 2 concurrent viewers. Who's lurking today? Who's lurking? Identify yourself. Identify yourself. Okay, back to the show. Remember, Dave, not to stay on this screen, but to switch back. So now, as we can see, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, see, now we're seeing some rain. Looking good. Okay, interesting. This is probably a Krita shot. That does not look like any plastic tool or anything. So 601 dovetails into 602. There's a slight darkening of his skin. Let's open up 601. I'm gonna bet that it's a Krita. SL scenes dash 601. Oh, it's not. Well, lo and behold, it's a. So we'll go to 601.tnz. Save all. Boy, that rain, I tell you that, and I am on the wrong screen, the rain level has been super helpful. I've been able to use that same level over and over and over on different shots. Okay, what I was gonna say is on the other screen, I'm looking at the color correction. Better switch back here. It actually looks like I pumped up the gamma here. which I am not sure was the greatest idea I've ever had. Yes, let's just pump this gamma back down. I mean, maybe we'll do 1.1, but holy cow. Alright, that just solved the color matching problem. One could argue maybe suck out a little bit of saturation. So let's go with 0.9. Ooh, I like this music. I don't know. Oh, that's horrible. I'm gonna smack this back to 1. The thing is, you can always use a secondary color corrector to surgically fix color issues. Here you could argue that his garment is actually too dark in this shot. Well, how do you fix that? First of all, let's turn this up. Okay, that's not really even needed actually. So let's add a secondary color corrector and we will quickly learn how one uses a secondary color corrector. It's one of the most powerful visual effects there are because it involves a mask. So if we show the mask, what I'm trying to do is isolate that color right there. So let's show the mask and we'll limit it to hue for the moment, and as you can see, that's not helping us at all. So I'm going to limit the saturation. Well, geez. Why? Okay, I guess we're gonna... I am a little befuddled here. I've never seen the secondary color corrector be quite that stupid. Okay, I'm gonna defer on that. I'm not gonna try to solve this. This is like, you know, what are the odds you're live streaming and you run into something that is like, I've been using Vegas for 10, 12, 15 years, and what we're seeing right now has literally never happened before, ever. Like, you don't select a color range on a secondary color corrector and have it just not work. You can see that the color corrector works. So what the heck is going on? Let's grab that color. See, it's clearly working. It's selecting a color range. But when we show the mask, we see nothing. Okay. From low to high, let's limit luminance. And literally nothing. This shouldn't be happening. This should be going from white to black, basically. You know, it should be showing you the mask. I have no idea what's going on here. And I'm not going to fight with it right now. I will go ahead and try one more secondary real quick just to see if maybe there was just something funky going on. But yeah, this is actually a bit beyond the pale, my friends. If we isolate that color, we can... I'm going to make a guess here. I'm going to make a guess. For many moons, I was not using the GPU acceleration here in Vegas. And I don't really remember why. I think that, I mean, going back at least 2 or 3 years, there were some issues with one of the movies that I sort of determined that the GPU was actually causing some problems. I'm going to disable the GPU, and I'm going to bet you if I restart Vegas that secondary color corrector is going to... Excuse me. Sorry, didn't mean to sneeze in your ear there, friends. I'll bet you if I restart Vegas that the secondary color corrector will magically start working again. You know, GPU acceleration is definitely, from time to time, can be kind of a mixed bag. You know, you get a benefit and a bunch of bugs come along with it. It's the same thing I always observe with animation software. It just is what it is. And again, this is the Animation Truman Show. That means when I have a little software issue that's kind of annoying, you know, tough luck. We have to deal with it. So... okay, so it was this shot right here, and what I did was I chose the secondary color corrector. And by the way, just to be clear, as you can see now. For a show like this, the GPU acceleration really does not help much. I mean, you'd have to pile up quite a few effects to start seeing any benefit from the GPU anyway. So, okay, that worked. Select the effect range. I want that area right there. Show the mask. That still doesn't want to show the mask. That is the darndest thing. Well, there it is. I hate to say it. It's a little embarrassing, but hell, it's not my fault. I've never seen the secondary color corrector in Vegas just not be able to pull a matte. It's really weird. Really, 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 really weird, weird. All of the... Well, let's try it this way. This is one of the... Okay, this takes a little explaining. Basically, Vegas 7 was probably the most stable version of Vegas, and I really liked it. When I jumped up to Vegas 12, there were a lot of, you know, sort of ostensible benefits, to, GPU acceleration being one of them. But at the same time, there's some things about 12 that are a little hokey. So I'm going to go ahead and select here. The Vegas 12 version of the color corrector is this, and if you go here, you're seeing the interface from the Vegas 7 version, or the earlier version. Why they did that, I don't know. I would just assume the developers knew that there were some things that were a little buggy about it, and probably a lot of people preferred this interface anyway. It's just a guess, but... So let's show the mask now, and we still see nothing, which is pretty creepy, pretty weird. Pretty freaking weird. So, alright, let's quit this silliness and come back here. And let's try solving this a simpler way, which is to simply change the color of his garment. Seems like that would probably be well advised at this juncture. Where's Golek? Is this Golek? Yeah. So, obviously, we could have done this all along, but what I'm going to do is hit the G key, sample that color, and then let's just... There we go. So the same problem is now solved in a different way. No big deal. You guys are going, why the hell didn't you do that in the first place? Yeah, I know. Yeah, that looks better. That sits in the mix a little more nicely. Okay, so in this shot's kind of interesting. He quiets down the crowd and then kind of realizes that the rain is drizzling to a stop. So it quit as quickly as it started, kind of thing. Now, what do we have here? Ah, yes, this is a shot of the crowd. That this is 596, and this is kind of stupid because if I'm going to use a shot from 596 and then a still frame, seems kind of important that the frame should be one of the drawings that doesn't have a falling raindrop in it. Okay. Duh. So let's come back over here. And here we'll go to 591. 591, friends. Scene number... Phew. Where are you, 591? I'm going to find you in here. Here we go. Okay, that's a little creepy and weird. 589, 590, 594. Oh, I'm sorry, this is 596. Well, that explains a lot. Okay, so now we're looking up right there. That actually would work. So I am dragging this over into Vegas. And I actually like the way his face kind of... Yeah, this all goes by pretty quick Because what's happening is Golik's sort of realizing that the rain's trickling to a stop. And so we're just getting a really quick glimpse of the crowd sort of responding to that, right? And he's like, So that needs to end much quicker. Maybe just a skosh longer. Okay, now we're up to a bunch of shots that I re-rendered, or actually punched up a couple weeks ago. So I'm gonna let this loop and take a short break. I'll be back in a bit, friends. And I am back. So, anybody see anything that was particularly egregious here in the show? I don't think I want to deal with this right now. Okay, so I'm looking at the script. The rain drizzles to a stop. The crowd, I added to the show, snapped it in there just as it just occurred to me that might be interesting. So, Golik, or the king, peers at Golik suspiciously. Golik thinks fast, I can't talk this morning. Says, friends, this wondrous rain was but a sample of what awaits us. Bring forth the future queen. Okay. To which Vespar is like, huh? Oh, okay. He doesn't say that, but that's the vibe. Okay, so this is the stuff I worked on, I guess, last week or so. Tianara come forth. Golik comes up. Oh yeah, Tianara. Golik comes forth. What's going on? That Mickey Mousing music in the background actually almost kind of fits this little sequence. Okay. So I'm looking at the script at the same time with an even more derisive scowl. Golik turns his gaze back to the tent interior where he spies the letter. Golik picks up the letter and reads it. Okay, meanwhile, here comes Vespigi and Carliana. He says, look what I found, more or less. Mel's talking to himself about how he didn't really technically lose the letter. It was stolen by a monkey. So, yes, I want to make sure this is in the script. Carliana actually says who, because Golik says it's Asher. Vespigi's like, who's Asher? Or no, he says Asher, and then Carliana's like, who is Asher? Because she doesn't know Asher. Golik says, I'm sure of it. Anything to subvert the crown. So let's come back here. Every time I click back onto Vegas, I sort of have to wait a second for it to wake up. Oh, this, my lord, didn't I warn you this would happen? He says he'll pay with his head. And now we're back to the crowd. Okay. Here, crowd reaction. Again, I don't want to sit here and draw a crowd. So that is not going to be my cup of tea right now. Mel's going to want to warn Asher. Okay, so I think here's where we are in the script. He says, hear me, a great evil has been visited upon us and stop the rain. Our great evil's been visited upon us, and stop the rain. Okay, and maybe stop the rain happens over top of the crowd. Partly, and he says, oh yeah, and he says the prince's bride has been kidnapped. Kidnapped? What? Outrageous. Okay, keep going. I'm trying to get to the point where I finished up. Okay, here it is. He says, such evil cannot... Oh yes, Vespigi steps up and says, such evil cannot stand. It's outrageous, inexcusable, an insult. And Golik says, to each and every one of you. Okay, now, this goes back to the crowd that I don't want to draw right now, and theoretically, by the way, I better make sure my microphone's back on. It is. This could be the wide shot that we worked with earlier, where the crowd's shaking their fists. But again, I'm going to come back to that. Let's start here. Golik says, fear not, the prince has sworn to bring the perpetrators to justice. Now, of course, that's not true. Vespar has said no such thing. But Golik is essentially manipulating the situation publicly, so it's a little too awkward for Vespar to like beg out and go, well, wait a second, I didn't say that. You know, he's not going to do that publicly. And then here, let's hear from the prince. And he basically pushes him out in front of the crowd. You know, what are you going to do, Vespar? You know, the crowd's angry. They're obviously superstitious. They believe this story about the rain. And Vespar then says with grim resolve that, I won't quote the exact line because I don't want to jump back to the script, but basically I'm going to go find whoever kidnapped Tianara. So, that's what this is all about. Here, clap, clap. Zooms in on Vespar. And we kind of reuse that shot and it fades to black. And then the good news is once we get through this sequence right here, the whole show is done as far as animation goes, and is other than fix-ups, you know, little cleanups and stuff. So, question then becomes, what are we gonna do? Well, 650. Obviously, I don't really want to reuse this shot. I think I want to go ahead and redraw this. So let's just start there. Okay, so boom. Let's go to Krita. So Krita's going to be gracing us with a brand new clean shot that we are going to call 650. File. Save as minus 650 dot ping. Actually, before I do that, just to be, you know, just for sort of due diligence, what I'm going to do is actually paste the storyboard shot into here, and then let's hit Alt M to delete the white out of the alpha, and then let's clamp that. Something like that. That's probably okay. Okay, and then that becomes our guide for this shot, in which case now we can save this as minus 650.ping. And because it does have two layers, Krita will give us the opportunity to also save it as a Krita file. Okay, now, having done that, let's change this to a red line. In case anyone was wondering, how do you change it to a red line? Really easily. There's actually two ways. One would be to do a freehand path, but when you do it, just hit lock alpha so that it only paints the lines. That would be one way to do it. The other way to do it would be to hit Control M, go to the red channel, and push it up like that. So either way works. Okay, so this is just a guide though, so let's just kind of put that real quiet in the background, and we'll move this up, and we'll call this sketch. Okay, and right out of the gate, we might as well put it in a group, because we're going to want it in a group. Okay, and then as a matter of practice, oftentimes on the very first frame, I'll just always create a keyframe, because frankly, we know it's going to be animated, right? Okay, so let's get this blocked in. Number one, we just want this real soft in the background. Obviously, his headdress is wrong anyway, so we don't want lock alpha to be on. So job number one is to draw Golek. So I'm thinking about the 3D contours here across his face. His eyes tend to be slightly angled, like that. And probably the hardest thing to draw on Golek consistently would be his nose. But that looks pretty good, actually. So I'm going to zoom in a bit to get the spacing of this right on his mustache, his goatee, I should say. So that feels pretty good. But yeah, I'm always thinking, especially, you know, lately a lot about the underlying 3D structure. You know, and so if you're going to have wrinkles, it helps to sort of draw these contours through it as a guide. And then you just sort of tighten up from there, kind of thing. Looks pretty good. Okay, now he's got a little bit of his hair sneaking out. Alright, so now when we think about that 3D kind of thing, that means that puts one ear here and one ear here, basically. That looks pretty good too. This ear needs to kind of stick up a little bit more, I would say. Yeah, N key. Yeah, it feels good. Okay, so now the hat, which I've obviously botched a million times here through this sequence that I've been doing lately. The hat is basically about like that. Now, it does have this yellow band on top, and if we follow that contour through, it's got a little gem right there. Okay, let's check Golek's line of dialogue. I just want to make sure I know what he's what he's saying. And sorry guys, I was on the wrong screen. I've done that so many times. Forgive me, people. That was like so stupid. So you guys must be listening to the podcast. You're not even watching the video. You're just listening to me blab. And because nobody noticed that I'm on the wrong screen. Okay, I've done that a million times. Looking at the script. Oh yes, fear not, the prince has sworn to bring the perpetrators to justice. Okay. Okay. That's what he's going to say, huh? Alright. Let's just get the drawing here, right? Draw through the character a bit. That feels pretty good. So he's got that collar that he wears. All right, now, I'm going to backpedal a little bit here. And by the way, I want to make sure my other brush is the eraser, so I can just hit the slash key to switch back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to give myself 3 keys, and in this case, for I mean, there's really no reason not to. I'm just using these balls to sort of mark where they're going to be. So we might as well just, if this is the main thing that's going to change between these shots, let's just use our digital tools to block in the stuff that we know is going to change. And then I would say when he does that, he's going to have a slight leaning back. He's going to lean back just a little bit. Okay? That works, right? Okay, so now this would be, well, I was going to say this is a shot that would actually lend itself well to drawing the character and then bringing it into Tahoma to use the plastic tool, but we'll see. Okay, so now this is one thing I've been wanting to sort of be stricter with myself on, is right now I want to give myself a little chill pill and take the time to draw his hands the way I really want to draw him, not get in a hurry. Okay, so this hand is going to be kind of down. This one's going to be starting to open up. Starting to open up. Okay. So let's look at the volume of the palm there, and this finger is still down a bit. This is just a one frame tween, remember, so admittedly we could be a little sloppy with this and nobody's ever going to notice, but okay. And then this one potentially is going to be able to be duplicated and used in reverse on the other side. Okay, so let's go back here and check the sifter. Didn't notice because you just joined. Well, I'm just doing the Animation Truman show, dude. So you haven't really missed too much, actually. I've been going through and doing fixes and whatnot, and I'm only now actually starting a new shot, so it's all good. I know I don't give adequate warning. Sorry about that. So the music in the background is just a playlist of music from my movies, music I've scored. I figured it'd be kind of fun to have that in the background today for no apparent reason. Okay, so one thing I would say here is we're kind of violating the rule of thirds a bit. So honestly, we probably want to have the base of his palm maybe anchored on the rule of thirds. So let's make the hand slightly smaller. And I'm going to go Control C, Shift Control V, and then go ahead and on this particular frame, we might as well just duplicate it, right? Since it's going to be. So what's really going to happen is probably, let's go with a 3/4 of a second. Oh dear. This needs to be 8 frames per second, and this probably needs to be, when in doubt, I make it 60. That seems to be about right. So he says, "Fear not." Okay, and I'm gonna say, let's go here. I'm just gonna keep rolling with this a little bit here in pencil test mode. I'm going to have him lean back even a little bit more on 2 more frames. So I'm not drawing the body specifically because it's like, we know that the head is rigid, right? If the head's rigid, then why are we going to keep redrawing it over and over? That's nuts, right? Now, of course, I need to repeat that all at the ink and paint stage, but so what I'm doing is I'm taking the things that are rigid and just moving them around, knowing that I can, you know, connect the dots later, and at least that way I can block in the action. Okay, so he says, "Fear not." Okay, this happens too soon. And he's basically saying that the prince has sworn to bring the perpetrators to justice. Okay, yes. All right, so here, what's going to happen is this hand is going to come down. This hand is going to start to go out. This one will be a nice, easy repeat, because he's basically pointing over to Vespar. So all we're looking for is just a nice, smooth snap like that. And then here, this hand, I guess technically I can reuse it, but here's how I'm going to have to reuse it. I'm going to have to go like this. Flip it, bring it down here, and then basically do some erasing so that it looks like the back of his hand instead of the front of his hand. So that works. That works. Okay. So he says, "Fear not. The prince has sworn to bring the perpetrator." Okay, right there. The prince has sworn. Let's just go like that. Sworn to bring. Okay, I think what I'm feeling there. Prince has sworn. Okay, so probably the prince has sworn. Let's go here. So right about there. What I'm feeling here is a key. I'm feeling him leaning into this just a little bit. Again, I'm baking these animation keys in, and so again, just using the available tools. To save myself having to redraw it over and over. Or obviously do the pencil test as just a bunch of scribbles, which nothing wrong with that, but yeah, that feels pretty good. And so when he leans forward, I deliberately left this hand not really moving. Now the reality is it'd probably move a little bit, you know, just naturally with his shift in body weight, just a little bit. Just a little bit. And that feels pretty good. Okay. So, fear not. Your prince has sworn to bring the perpetrators to justice. Okay. And you could obviously, if you really want to do the body language thing, there's justice right there. You could say, you could grab this, Control C. Did I just do Control C or Control X? Sorry about that. That's not what I meant to do. I meant to go Control C. Perpetrators to justice right there. Control Shift V. Something like that. And if we're going to snap to it, then what we could do is grab this, We'll cut that out for that frame, and then let's just go one frame back, and I'm gonna just do a little bit of a tween so that we get a snap to the next key position. Bob, see, that's nice. At 8 frames a second you can get away with that. At 12 it would be too fast, probably. So now we'll see if I maintain the discipline to get all this reuse on the ink and paint, right? Well, if this was all if it was all transform masks, then you definitely could get the reuse on the ink and paint. And I have to say, I've done some tests in Krita 5.0.6 in terms of stress testing the transform masks and whatnot, and I have to say 5.0.6 is proving to be extremely stable. Caveat being, you still don't really want to have multiple transform masks piled on top of each other. That's generally bad policy. So in other words, just one level of transform masks, and if you really want to go in that direction, then bake it down and then add another one, you know. So, but I mean, I tried a full rig situation where I had a simple cartoon character that I rigged up with arms and all this, where you had to think about how to group them so you could use transform masks to have multiple levels of transformation, so arms would bend correctly and stuff at the elbow and whatnot. And basically it's stupid. Like, you don't want to do that in Krita. If that's really what you want to do, go over to OpenTunes or Tahoma and you're going to have a lot less stress. So you can do it, but it's not performant at all. It's actually very non-performant. Okay, so this tween here basically looks stupid. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this hand, go back here, and I guess I'll just do the lasso thing and Control-Shift-V and then move this. I'm going to go ahead and let him have the open hand that actually jumps a bit off screen as it's going up. That's fine. Okay, what about this? What about this? We've got this slight tween. What if we do this? We're just trying to feel it here. Slight lean forward. And the hand goes up a bit, all right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is actually grab this whole bit, Control-C, go here, delete that, Control-Shift-V to paste it in so that I can do the same thing one more time. Basically shift it down a little bit, little body weight shift, and then grab the hand, and again, I actually want the hand to go up when the rest of the body goes down. I think. We'll see how it feels. Yes and no. This doesn't feel that great. That's better. Yeah, so now, I mean, look at that. Now you can just basically, not to keep it too simple, but you can use rubber hoses in essence to connect all the body parts up. And now the reality is, for this shot, I really only need to ink his, I mean, I can use liquify on the collar to make it stay tight with the body. So really, I should be able to do complete animation of his head with one drawing. Basically 2 or 3 hand drawings, and then go ahead and get everything connected up. So there it is. All right, I am going to pin this to the timeline so that I can go up here, and I think just to be smart, I'm going to put the head in its own layer. Okay, because I am going to use a transform mask on his head. just because I can. So I'm going to turn the sketch down a little bit. This background sketch now can be deleted. There's no reason to keep it in the show anymore. Okay? So, because I know what his garments and body shape look like and all that, right? So what we want to do is get the head inked. Let's just get, we're not going to do paint, okay? But what I'm going to do is the stuff that I don't want to have to, let me think about this. If I use a transform mask, I can build it up in terms of ink and then paint later on a different layer, whatever. As long as the transform mask is affecting the group and not the individual layers, then the transform mask will affect everything that ever gets added to the group. So the thing to do here is to take the sketch and put it out of the group so that the transform mask is not moving it. Make sense? So let's get this spanked out, and yeah, that actually came out quite nice. I've been finding, just for the record, that when you do draw these contours, like in someone's face, if they're going to have an expression, or especially if it's a 3/4 view, just drawing a shape like this on the contour, you know, and here's the center line, drawing these contours through the character really seems to help. You know, yield a balanced and symmetrical looking character even when it's not a symmetrical drawing. See what I mean? And if I hit the M key and reverse it, you can see if you've missed the mark. And it look, you know, that looks pretty good. And now I sort of have a guide for where the eyebrows would be, kind of thing, and the ears, yada yada yada. So that's something I've been finding myself doing a ton of. Anyway, we'll just hit the old eraser to get rid of that. Okay, back to work on the head layer. I'm going to hit the X key to switch to black, and we will be putting the ink on its own layer so that I have the ability to color correct it later if I want to. In fact, this will be a good opportunity to use the what is it called? The Colorize mask editing tool. When I get to it, I'll show that. It's a really powerful way. It doesn't work well with animated sequences, but when you're doing coloring and you want to, well, number one, not get tripped up by leaks, the Colorize mask works stupidly well. So when I get to it, if I don't forget, I'll demonstrate that, because it's kind of an obscure tool, and I don't think you guys have ever seen me use it, but I learned how to use it over the weekend, and it definitely has its place, let's put it that way, in the inking, in the pantheon of techniques. Particularly because, especially when you're doing what I'm doing here, where I'm doing sort of this Alex Toth inking technique, where the ink lines are very bold and simple. It's like Johnny Quest or something. I'm looking for as few lines as possible to sort of capture the characterization. And the thing about it is that when I draw this way, like right here, you've got a leak right there. Well, are you going to patch it? What are you going to do, you know? And the Colorize mask tool is very forgiving of leaks without resorting to common leak detection and leak filling tools that usually come with pretty bad artifacts, actually, a lot of the time. So, but I'll show that here in a minute. Maybe I'll even show how you could use the Colorize mask in conjunction with what is it? Image split. And this is when you're taking your first keyframe and you're wanting to get a really good clean colorization, and at the same time put all your colors on separate layers. Those are the kinds of things, you know, we're sort of talking about being able to do here in a way that's gives pretty good and predictable results. And obviously if there's no leaks, then you can do fills the old-fashioned way, but okay. So here we're going to have this wrinkle and probably something. I'm trying to make this so that it's not too scrunched up and it's not too stretched down, because I'm very sure that I'm going to be using Liquify to adjust it from one extreme to the other as his body weight moves around. So we want to just kind of find the middle ground here on the positioning. It's like the same reason why when you're doing a rig, you tend to start with the arms outstretched in the middle position, not too crunched in either, because you're trying to avoid weird distortions and well, if you've done 3D, you know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't done 3D, it doesn't do me any good to explain it, because you're not going to know what I'm talking about. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, that worked. That didn't quite work. All right, that's okay. We'll see if we can fix it. Probably the best thing to do would be what I've been tending to do with his hat, which is resort to the, let's just go ahead and resort to the Bezier curve tool. It's just a great, it's the right tool for the job sometimes. Back to the B key. And of course his little wingdinger. Okay, so what was I talking about on the Colorize mask tool? Let me show that. I'm going to save my work. Colorize mask tool works like this. You invoke it, okay? And then what you do is you simply take your brush, and in this case I'll just grab a blue color, like a, actually there's no green on him, so I'll use a green color. So I'm just going to go like this. Okay, so now I just told Krita that everything in this region outside of Golek is to be considered transparent. And the reason for that is that, hold on a second here. Sorry, I made a mistake. Colorize, click. Okay. Yes, there. It's supposed, it looks kind of fuzzy. Okay. So just, that's normal. That's what's supposed to happen. Okay, so you basically draw these spots around here. And now I'm not going to get the exact colors for Golek right now because it's for demonstration purposes. It's not a big deal. But I'm basically going to just draw inside these areas like that. And then for the whites of his eyes, I'm going to zoom in and go like, just go like that. Okay. And then he's got the sort of that color on his hat. He's got, oh, sorry, that's really wrong. A very yellow color here. And his collar obviously is a pretty good red. Now, what is, I feel like I'm missing something here. Okay, yes. I'm grabbing the green and I'm telling it that the green is supposed to be transparent. So now when I update it, see that? You can tell it did its job. And if we convert the colorized mask layer to a paint layer, we wind up with basically perfect color. I mean, and look at that. Even the gaps under is, well, actually, I have to correct myself. There is actually a spot there where it didn't quite nail it. And also, my fault, I forgot to color his hair. But still, you know, play around with it. It's definitely a useful tool. Okay, and then the other thing I'm going to do now is I am going to take that layer and do image split. Let's just see what happens. No, that's not what I want. I thought it was image split. It's not separate image. I've got my tools wrong. Sorry. Can't remember what the split. It's not split alpha into, darn it, what is it? There is a tool here that will find all of the colors and split them all into separate layers. And I'm drawing a blank. Hey, Crescourt. Yes, almost as fast as OT's frame range fill. Well, the thing is, you don't have the frame range benefit, though, in Krita. So all it really does for you is, if you've got a complicated color situation, you're getting into a bit of a mess in that you would have to, put it this way, Krita's ability to combine independent layers into an animated sequence is pretty useful sometimes. If you really want to do the meticulous job on your coloring and actually use the Colorize mask, because you're going to have to do it on every frame, which is obviously pretty obnoxious. So it's not the tool that you use because you want to do fast coloring of animation. It's the tool that you use because you have complicated characters with multicolored costumes and you want to just go in there and put color indicators and not have to worry about leaks to at least get you moving forward. That's the way I look at it. So it isn't even a tool that I'm actually going to use very much. But as I say, it's definitely useful. Let's grab this. And we'll color that. And then we do need to get his hair colored in. And I do want to go ahead and break this into independent layers because I would like to just color correct his skin, not have to worry about actually even getting the color right. It's not a big deal. So forgive me having to grope here for the, I don't believe it is, I just used it the other day and I just don't remember what it was. So it was either layer, split layer. There it is. It's layer, split layer. Boom. So there you go. So that gives you, that one could be deleted. I don't need that. I would say I don't need that either. So there's the yellow. Okay. So now I'm going to take this and put it below here and turn the Colorize mask off. Okay, well, you know, that's okay. There's the yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and change these names to something a little more sensible. But as I have said, Krita, performance-wise, Krita is pretty forgiving of lots of layers, even if there's lots of animated keyframes. Where it tends to bog down is when you get into basically masks, transform mask, filter mask, whatever. Okay, so here, where are we seeing, did I put the, what? Okay, yes. So it looks like it baked the whites of his eyes into the skin. So that's fine. Well, it really isn't, actually. I'm going to hit F and the E key so that I'm actually going to erase out his whites of his eyes. Because if I'm going to color correct the skin, I don't want to be having to go back and recompensate for the whites of his eyes. That's just silly. Okay, what's going on here? Oh, alpha lock. Yes. Yeah, it by default it alpha locks the channels after it does a color separation. So let's grab this. And the thing is, remember that all the animation is going to be taking place with the transform mask anyway. So it's not like we need the we don't have to set keyframes on the color levels, or layers I should say. Okay, so we'll call this eyes. So hit the B key. Now if you're putting all your color on one layer, then you can use behind mode and it kind of makes a lot of things easier. If you're on all separate layers, then you do have to be cognizant of what layers, the stacking order. Just saying. Okay, we'll save that. Boom. So now we've got the head. I'm going to actually change this to go like head because I'm going to have a completely separate group for the rest of his body. So I'm kind of making this up as I go along a little bit. I want to have a shadow layer. Excuse me. SHD. And we'll do that the usual way. Like so, and then tamp that down to about 13% or so. And that seemed a little aggressive to me. Something like that looks pretty good. Golik's eyes are always in shadow. He basically has evil snake eyes. That really wants to be in raw mode. Okay, now let's get this. Some nice shadows in there to round that out. And Crescourt says, I can never decide if raster vector is a way to go. Oh, believe me, Crescourt, everybody who comes to my channel is always debating that. My opinion would be this, very, very simple. And I can say this from a lot of experience because, as you can see, I've done many, many minutes of animation on this show, okay? If your purpose with vectors is editability, then that is a benefit. If your purpose with vectors is to be resolution independent, that benefit is grossly overstated. Grossly overstated. Particularly because if you have a smaller drawing, well, let's just say you have a large drawing of the character, he's a big close-up, right? Well, when you shrink it down, typically with vector programs, you're going to wind up having to edit the line thickness anyway. Because at the smaller sizes, it's going to be too small. So you don't really get the reuse through scaling that you think you will. But if you just want to have curves that you can edit after the fact, you know, no harm, no foul. There's nothing wrong with that. I've been down both roads plenty. The problem with vectors in OpenToons or Tahoma is that they're notoriously unreliable when it comes time to do your coloring work. Like, you can't fill shapes that you know for a fact are closed. And there's technical reasons why it can't find the shapes and stuff, but it's basically stupid. It's a problem that you shouldn't have to deal with. But there it is. So Control M. Here I'm going to pump up the red, I think, in his flesh tone. So that's like easily solved. And then I'm just going to create a filter mask. Actually, since it's just one frame, forget that. I think I'll just flatten the layer and bake it in. I knew I wanted to make that color change. Okay, so now let's animate him. What we'll do is we'll turn the guide back on. And then I think after I do this animation, I'm probably going to quit for this morning because I'm starting to run out of gas a little bit and I'm ready for a break. So all I'm doing is adding a transform mask. I'm sorry, I did not mean to do that. I'm going to grab this and double click that column and remove that. I did not want that in there. I haven't added the transform mask yet. So what I'm trying to do, sorry, is go up here to the group and I want to add a transform mask to the group. Then go and immediately on frame 0 add 1 animation keyframe. That's it. Then go back to the timeline. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hit the A key, and Krita's annoying me a little bit. Well, okay, I was going to complain that we weren't pinned to the timeline, but actually we were. I just couldn't see it, so sorry about that. All right, so there's one keyframe, and we know we're going to have a keyframe here, and you can see what's going to happen. That's his destination, but the fact of the matter is that the tween will take care of this one probably. So what I'm going to do is move this keyframe to here so that we're just tweening from here to here. Okay? One of the best things about the transform masks is that the tool remembers its axis of rotation. So once you set an axis of rotation like that, it remembers it. That's a really good thing because it's annoying as can be. And actually, I'm going to move it a little bit, but it's annoying that the normal transform tool, you can't tell it to remember its axis of rotation. It just won't do it. Okay, so here we're going to move. As you can see, it's mostly a rotation. So, and then my point is, once the body's drawn in here, then we'll use liquefy on the individual frames to, you know, we'll flatten the head layer. Once we know the animation's what we want, then we'll go ahead and flatten it so that these animated keyframes are baked in. Okay. So here, what I want to do is I want to copy this key from here to here, so that there is no tweening going on in between, and then bloop. Okay, and then here obviously we've got another change, so let's take this, turn it around like that, bring them over here, and then same thing here. We're going to drag this keyframe to here so that we don't have any tweening, and now as you can see, it actually did the tween for us perfectly. Ta-da! Save your work, save early, save often. You can set the lines to scale in CSP. Well, I mean, yes, Amar, that's true, and technically you can in Blender as well. So, you know, I think for CresCore, I would say that the fact that you're going back and forth between the two is a good thing. In fact, let me put it to you this way. If you haven't done enough animation with both pixel art and vectors to be able to make your own decision about what you prefer, then you have not done enough animation with pixel art or vector. Do I need to say that again? If you're not able to make that decision for yourself, it means you haven't done enough with either one of the tools. So you need to do enough so that you're able to arrive at your own opinion about what you like. Now that's going to be modulated somewhat by what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do, if you're trying to do Ben 10, you're probably going to gravitate to vectors. If you're trying to do One Punch Man, you're probably going to gravitate to pixels. It just depends, you know. There is no right answer. So as you can see right there, guys, this is very, very, very significant to note, actually. I mean, here we've got a 60 frame sequence, and in Krita 5.0.6 there was basically no time spent filling the animation cache, and the performance is fine, right? We're not having a bunch of performance issues. So, you know, I am cautiously pretty bullish on Krita 5.0.6. Okay, so it looks like we got one more change there that I forgot about. So let's go to here, grab the transform mask, put it there, and then again, we don't want a bunch of tweening that we didn't ask for, so we'll make a copy of this keyframe. And now what should happen, as you can see, so yeah, and look, you can also see how the animation, the frames are playing back properly, yet we can see that according to this right here, the animation cache has not been filled. So that means some of the performance issues in the early versions of Krita 5 do seem to be getting fixed. And as much as I complain about Krita, you know, you guys can take that to the bank that if I say it's a little impressive, it probably is. One thing I'm going to do here, though, is I want this change to be a little snappier, so I'm going to actually move this copied keyframe forward one. And let's have a look. Okay, so before I quit, what I'm going to do is show you guys what to do. If you get an animation like this dialed in and you're going, okay, I'm happy with it, but I don't want the performance penalty of the transform mask, and I don't want the potential instability of the transform mask. Here's what you do. Take the group that's got all your stuff in it. If you're really sure that you're not going to go any further with it, in other words, this piece of my animation is ready. It's done. It's what I want. Okay. Make a copy of it. Gather the group up like this, and then make a copy. Then turn the original one off and lock it and forget about it. Now you know that you've got that saved. Save your work. Okay? Now, go to this layer and just merge the group. And then wait. Give Krita a minute to do the calculations, because it's got to calculate all those tweens. It's got to combine all those layers together so that you wind up with a single sequence that is ostensibly correct. And what I see here is it looks to me like Krita made one mistake because of where that one animation keyframe was. So I'm just going to copy this here because that's what it's supposed to be anyway. Okay. Okay. So now this looks good. And why did I do that? Well, first of all, I've given myself a big performance benefit. Okay. I've given myself a big stability benefit. In every way, it's much safer to work with, you know, the flattened out layers. So now what can I do with that? How does that help me when I finish out this scene? Well, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw these hands, and I'm going to use the transform mask to move them around. I'm going to do the same thing and bake them down. Okay, so then just broadly speaking, let me show you why I did this. And by the way, there's something I want to note here. It's probably worth taking the time to go through here, and like right there, you can see that these are duplicate frames, okay? It's not a bad idea to go through and anywhere there's a duplicate, remove it. Krita put those duplicates in there because it was calculating the transform mask. And basically, think of it this way. The transform mask was in force. And I know where it's basically all these frames are all the duplicates, right? So now, the interesting thing about this is I also can always adjust the timing if I want. You know, I could actually, like right there, you can see it's a little off. You know, go in and, if I want to, go in and make adjustments to each individual frame. You know, do whatever you want to really dial it in, right? Okay, so here we want to go like that. Get rid of those keyframes. Here, I may wind up adding a keyframe. So that one, if I'm going to match the sketch, should really be like there. And then probably this one, we maybe just add a little tiny bit of a tween. So now the animation's even smoother than it was with the transform mask, actually. Okay? But the other thing I can do is when I go ahead and put his body in here, I'm putting a dummy layer in here to just demonstrate this. But when I draw his body in here, and then the body gets animated, what I'll be able to do is then go into the individual frames of his head, and then on a frame-by-frame basis, just take the liquefy tool and just make little adjustments like this to make that collar move with the body, right? Makes sense? So there it is. With that, I'm going to quit. I've been going for 2 hours and I'm ready for a break. So, you know, I may live stream again this evening. We'll see. If I do, I'll try to post a note sometime before I go live, so you guys aren't getting too big of a surprise. So if there are no questions from the class, then I am going to sign off. So if you have a question, type it in the chat real quick. And with that, I will sign off. You guys know